Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. Hope you had a good Christmas and are looking forward to the new year. And Manchester United haven't spoiled it too much. Just thought I'd do a quick video looking at some of the latest decisions by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS and what this means. Because I'm not going to lie to you, I found a few of the stories that I'm reading over the last couple of days really disheartening and really worrying. And I think that for anyone who loves Manchester United and says they love Manchester United, like Sir Jim Ratcliffe claims he does, you think that some of these decisions would be abhorrent to him, because they're certainly abhorrent to me as a Manchester United fan. Now, we're going to go back to the start. We did a little bit of a deep dive on INEOS's first year earlier on. Well, I'm going to say earlier on this week, but I think it was either beginning of the week or last week, other days blend into one. But that is up on the channel. You can go and have a look at that first year of INEOS being at the helm, if you will. But I just wanted to jump on and do some, get involved in a quick discussion regarding what is going on over the last couple of days in particular. Now, when INEOS came in, when it was first mooted that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was going to take over Manchester United, I thought this would be a positive move. First heard about Sir Jim Ratcliffe as a potential part owner or owner of Manchester United when we spoke to Kieran Maguire from the Price of Football. And he said, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe was bidding for Chelsea, he said, don't take that too seriously as a Chelsea bid, because that bid isn't likely to succeed. And it could be a sort of signal to the Glazers that he's in the market for buying a football club, and give them a bit of a heads up that, look, if you were to sell, I'd be interested. And that kind of panned out. And when I asked Kieran about it, he was sort of saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who at the time I think was 68, 69, he said he'll be looking at some sort of legacy, looking at not just about making money and moving forward, but how he'll be remembered. That was what Kieran said to me at the time. And if you can be the man that sort of rescues Manchester United, if you will, from the Glazers and from the absolute disaster that has been the last decade or so, then that is a pretty good way to be remembered.
Well, there's two issues. First of all, can he buy the club? Yes, he can, and he can certainly buy the club with the share price having gone down, if he can put up an acceptable price. B, what's in it for him? He's not looking to make a profit. That was certainly the comments he came in respect of, talking about buying Chelsea. If I was from Oldham and a United fan and the richest man in the country, and I was 70 years old and I wanted people to remember me for something, presently, he's got it for people riding bicycles. Now, what he could do is be remembered as the man that rescued Manchester United from the Glazers. Which of those are going to look better on his tombstone?
So I was quite hopeful that if Sir Jim Ratcliffe did put a bid in for Manchester United and it was successful, that he would do that. He would want to be remembered as that guy and try and turn this club around. Now, there's no reason to say that, well, there might be some reasons, but we're not saying that can't still happen, but so far it doesn't look like he's thinking about his legacy. Some of the decisions at the minute just seem really baffling, but we'll get into that in a sec. However, we know that when the sort of bids came in, it was between Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim. Now, I was always wary of Sheikh Jassim taking over at Manchester United. One, we didn't know a lot about him, and two, it very much felt like if his bid was to be successful, it would be state-funded, state-owned. And I've always been critical of state ownership. That's nothing against the Qatari state. I criticised Manchester City when they went down that model, PSG, Newcastle. Doesn't matter which country it was. I just didn't like the idea of being state-owned, and I didn't like the idea of sports washing being part of Manchester United. However, it felt like a bit of a moot point anyway, because from what we gathered, Sheikh Jassim just didn't have the money, or certainly wasn't willing to spend the money it took to buy Manchester United. Now, loads of people might look back now and go, we should have gone with Sheikh Jassim. But all the indications are, when we've seen the sort of reports and the SEC filings, that he didn't have the money that was required to make the Glazers sell. So Jim Ratcliffe did. He put together a financial package which saw him come in and take, I think it's 27.7% or something, maybe a little bit more than that, with hopefully, hopefully, we'll get to that in a minute, of buying more and perhaps one day becoming the sole owner or the majority shareholder overall of Manchester United. I think he has the most amount of shares for an individual, but he doesn't have more than the Glazers. So I thought, okay, this makes sense. Now, the whole he's a local lad, done well. Yeah, okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's certainly, impressive that you've come from, I think, Failsworth, from a council house, and you've managed to become Britain's richest man ever. That is impressive. And if you're going to use some of that wealth to help Manchester United get back to the top of football, then I'm all for it. Now, when he took over, when he came in, he did a lot of things differently from the Glazers, which impressed me. For starters, he was a lot more open to chatting to the press, the media. We didn't really hear from the Glazers, or we haven't really heard from them since they've been in charge or since they've owned Manchester United. Then he did little things that to me made sense. He spoke very well about Manchester United. He said about the glamour of the club. He mentioned some former players like Eric Cantona and George Best. So he's obviously understood sort of what United were about. Then there was small things, but they matter. Meeting with fans, meeting with the fans forum, attending the Munich Memorial. I called these sort of PR tappings, if you will, but PR tappings that the Glazers didn't do. The Glazers rarely ever spoke to the fans. I think they only started speaking to us once we got the Liverpool game postponed. And even then, it was only a couple of Zoom calls. I think he had a face-to-face meeting, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, that obviously attending the Munich Memorial. Yeah, you should be there, really. But the Glazers never went. He went there, and it seemed to make a lot of sense. And I said, okay, he should be doing these things, but these things weren't happening. Also, some of the appointments. Bringing in Omar Barada as CEO. That made sense. A football person, bringing in Jason Wilcox as well, waiting for Dan Ashworth to bring him in as sporting director. That all made sense. You think, okay, we're bringing in football people. He understands the culture of the club. He's doing the right things. From a PR perspective, I liked what I was seeing. Then the worrying signs set in, if you will. There was a couple of decisions that you look at, you go, not sure about that one. Now, some of them you can understand. Sir Alex Ferguson not being an ambassador anymore. At first, you look at it and some of the headlines, Fergie sacked by Ratcliffe, you think, that's terrible. What's gone on there? And I thought the way that it was announced, where it was, I know it wasn't intentional, but I think it was Adam Crafton, the Athletic, who's always ahead of the curve in it. I think he had the story, but United could have announced it themselves. They could have done an announcement saying Sir Alex Ferguson is still going to be part of the club, but he's sort of stepping back from some of his roles, some of his duties. And I think a lot of people would have understood that because he's in advancing years. He's already had some health issues. You say, okay, look, we're taking some responsibilities away from him, but he's still going to be part of Manchester United. That would have been a better announcement than it leaking to the press and it getting twisted by certain papers as Sir Alex has been sacked. So there was that one. It wasn't great from a PR perspective. But when you look at the money he was on and what he was doing, you go, okay, I get it. We're trying to cut costs. We're trying to do things differently. I say it about backing Ruben Amorim. I always say we have to back this manager because if we just do more of the same, we'll end up with more of the same results. Do more of the same off the pitch, you end up with more of the same on the pitch. So I understand the idea of changing things and doing things differently. But then there's other stuff that he's done that you go, okay, cutting the staff, 250 staff. Again, you could justify. You can go, look, what we gather, United had more staff than I think than any other Premier League club. Maybe we had too many staff. Maybe that was justified and it made sense just from a sort of cost-cutting perspective. If we are going to save money with PSR, a big issue, then okay, does that matter? Does that affect it? Is that one of the reasons why you need to do it? Fine. Not fine. Again, you can understand it, even though you don't like it. But then we get into sort of silly, petty things that don't seem to be worth the mitre the causing. Stopping the travel to the FA Cup final for staff, the free travel. Now, we saw a story recently, I think it was Laurie Whitwell and Adam Crafton in the Athletic, saying that Bruno Fernandes actually offered to pay for staff himself, and the club or INEOS said no, because it'd be a bad look for them when he offered to pay for their travel. I mean, how much does that save? A few grand? Is it worth it? Is it worth the negative PR you're going to get by just saving a few grand? Then there's a Christmas bonus issue. Apparently, staff weren't getting the Christmas bonuses. They were used to get 100 quid, and now they're going to get £40 worth of Marx's vouchers.
That's the present sorted.
Again, what do you save from that? I think there's another one about sort of employee of the month or whatever it is for stewards where they get rewarded and you're getting rid of that. Or certain things that have just gone on that to me don't seem worth it. For the money you will save, which is basically pennies, the negative publicity you get, and just the feeling of deflation you're giving some of your staff. They've seen some of the colleagues being laid off. Then you tell them they're not getting free travel to the cup final, and then you tell them you're cutting the Christmas bonus as well. I mean, that's not a great look, is it? And if you're going to come in and say, you know what, I get the culture of Manchester United, I am a local lad, I'm a United fan, and you do these moves, it doesn't feel like you do. Then recently, we've seen some ones that are even more troubling. We saw the one, I think this was Saturday afternoon or it's Saturday morning, the story that the INEOS are going to cut funding or donations to the ex-players funds. So there's a charity that looks after club legends or former players. A lot of ex-United players don't have loads of money. some of them do, obviously, but there's ex-players that might have played at a time when there wasn't loads of money knocking around in football. I remember chatting to Norman Whiteside, if you allow me to name drop, and he was saying I think he made more money at one season at Everton than he made at 5 or 6 seasons at Manchester United, because the money he was on as an apprentice and as a sort of YTS, if you will, when he was a kid, and then his first contracts weren't great. When he went to Everton, a bit more experience, Fergie made sure he got a decent deal. So he got more money, I think, from that one season than he did from all the years he was at Manchester United. And Norman Whiteside is a club legend. That sounds ridiculous, but, you know, that he didn't make that much money, but he didn't. So you have players, that's Norman Whiteside, who's actually, you know, a player that we all know and who reached pretty much the very top of football, broke a load of records. So you have a lot of players who might have played a handful against Manchester United who might not have the money they need to continue, not saying a lifestyle they're accustomed to, because that makes it sound like the balling. I mean, they might just be, you know, in need of help, and United should be able to help our former players. So he's cut that one as part of his cost-cutting measures. And then once a day about cutting money towards the Manchester United Foundation. We've worked with the foundation a few times to do some great work in the community.
I am Adam McCullough. We're here today at the Millennium Powerhouse in Moss Side, Manchester, and we've been invited by the Manchester United Foundation.
And to see that happen, you just think, what is going on? Why are you doing these things? It very much feels like an almost Glazer tactic. And even the Glazers, who I can't stand, didn't do some of these moves. These are new moves. Now, I understand you have to change things. You have to do things differently. I get it. You can't just come in and go, we're going to do everything the same, and then things will be better. Because you think, well, if you keep everything the same, nothing is going to change. So I understand that.
But, you know, nothing ever changes by staying the same. Quite literally.
But some of these cost-cutting measures seem petty, and they seem just stupid. They don't seem to be worth the money that you're going to get. They seem too cold-hearted. I know you've got to make tough decisions, but some of these decisions, cutting funds to ex-players, cutting charity donations to the Manchester United Foundation, doesn't seem like a good move to me. Now, you can look at some of the other moves they've made as well, INEOS. Dan Ashworth, spending millions to bring him in, then sacking him. We've wasted money there. Look at some of the contracts we've got. I know INEOS aren't responsible for a lot of these contracts, but we're wasting a lot of money on players who are nowhere near good enough for Manchester United. But some of these moves and some of these decisions by INEOS recently have really left me scratching my bald head. Don't get it. Don't think it's a good look. And think Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS need to fix up. They need to remember Manchester United isn't just any football club. It's a football club that is, you know, considered to be a family club, a club with heart, a club that means so much to so many people. And these moves, they're just alienating a lot of people. And it's already bad enough on the football pitch when you go in there and you're watching it on telly and you're seeing United getting beat most weeks. You see us getting spoken about in relegation battles. And then when you see the way INEOS are moving off the pitch as well, you just think, what's going on at my football club? INEOS needs to sort it out. They need to sort it out sooner rather than later, because the fans won't stomach it. We really won't. And just ask the Glazers about that. When the fans aren't happy, they'll let you know about it. I'm going to leave it there. Oh, I almost forgot to mention as well, 66 quid with ticket prices. Unacceptable. Just one thing after another in a minute anyway. I'll be back next week. You're going to have the watch along for the Newcastle game tomorrow. Joe's got a video coming out in the morning as well, so make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. I'm Jay Motty. This has been a quick look at what is going on with INEOS. Sort it out. Thanks for watching.